hao and welcome to the Olympian effort. I'm in Beijing at the Olympic Green. Now, sandwiched between the bird's nest and the water cube and the world's best athletes pushing human limits are brands pushing the marketing brief. Let's start the show by looking at the only Chinese company in the top sponsor list, Lenovo, whose Olympic association has been about announcing its global intentions.
For most Olympian marketers, these hordes of Chinese people streaming in through the 17 days of the Olympics were the main attraction. For China's largest PC maker, however, they were just a happy bonus. But just as Beijing's residents put their best foot forward to welcome the world, so did Lenovo. The only Chinese company on the top sponsor list, Lenovo was also the IT services partner. 580 of its engineers had worked for over 2 years to create and run the complex IT backbone of the games. In the process, many of them had put their lives on hold. As the games wound down, some of them used the platform to celebrate both a personal as well as a professional milestone.
Alice Lee, it's great to have you here on the Olympian effort. While sponsors like Coca-Cola and Adidas have clearly stated that the Olympic Association this year, at least in Beijing 2008, was about reaching out to the Chinese market, for Lenovo, which is the largest manufacturer of PCs here in China, clearly the world is who you were looking at.
Firstly, we think this is a historical opportunity for Lenovo, as Lenovo is becoming a global brand, and this gives us an opportunity to demonstrate to the world our product and technology for the Olympic Games. And also, as a leading company from China, we think we have responsibilities and the ability to make great contribution to the Olympic Games. And this is also the first ever Olympic Games to be held in China.
Did you then have two very different strategies for here in China and for the rest of the world in terms of your advertising and promotion campaigns?
We consider this is a global stage. This is an event happened in China, but to reach out to the global audience. There's very few events in China. Athletes, journalists, and officials from 200 countries coming to China. So you may notice Lenovo at the moment you step off the plan. So that's why we bought over 200 signage at the international arrival in the Beijing airport. When you drive from the airport to the hotel, you will see big Lenovo billboards. And also when you drive from the hotel to the Olympic venues, you will see Lenovo, the fully decorated Lenovo branded double-decker buses, the beautiful buses, and other 5,500 branded Lenovo buses.
Executing an Olympic sponsorship is clearly a very, very complex exercise, and you've had to work with a whole host of associates, from the IOC and NOCs on one end to other top sponsors, for instance like the Atos Origin group, which is handling the information systems here. What is it like?
We working very closely with the local organizing committee as well as the IOC, and sometimes we also need to work with other partners like Atos Origin and other technology partners, because this is joint efforts. We are very different from other sponsors. We are make a very important, and we are playing crucial important role in this Olympic Games operation.
Lenovo is not renewing its sponsorship of the Olympics. What is the reason for that?
We have several other sponsorship assets, such as NBA and F1. And after Olympics, we want to develop some more regional kind of sponsorship, and so that give us a more frequent and more intensive, more frequent opportunity to activate and to build our brand in different and in targeted countries.
Is it correct then to say that the objectives Lenovo had in 2005 have been met by this Olympic sponsorship, and you don't feel the need for this kind of investment going forward?
We are actually very happy about the return on this investment. You will see, you see that we built 7 lounges in the Olympic Village, and this showcase in the Olympic Green. Only the lounge itself, so far by now, there are about 100,000 visits by the athletes. And every day here we have audience visit Lenovo Showcase over 5,000. So we got very good result. And some organizations, evaluating the performance, they're saying Lenovo doing the best among all the sponsors. So we are very happy.
For visitors at the Lenovo Pavilion, first up was a trip down torch relay lane. Close on its heels came the mandatory product demo. So Lenovo's laptops were put through a wet test, a stress test, and even a music tutorial. The company's message: if we're good enough for the Olympic Games, we're good enough for you.
Lenovo, they're claiming to be happy with the Olympic dollars it has spent. Let's take a commercial break here, but when we come back, we're going to meet a sponsor with deeper pockets and a marketing plan that promises to keep becoming swifter, higher, stronger. Watching the Olympian effort here on CNBC TV 18, and I am in a Shuang zone. That is what Coca-Cola is calling the 3 centers that it has put up in Beijing to directly interact with consumers and to flaunt its Olympic association. And when you come here and you see the people here, you realize that this is brand building at its best. It's not about a soft drink, it's, as they say, it's about the Coke side of life.
And going by the long queues outside, visitors to the games were eager for a taste. Until they got there, the photo opportunity with the superstar was always there. On display inside, the Coca-Cola way of fusing art, entertainment and sport to create a potent new subculture. From supersized classic Coke bottles designed by local artists to posters, torches and other commemorative memorabilia that span Coca-Cola's 80-year-long affair with the Olympic Games. The brand had devised everything it could to seed itself into mass culture.
I'm with Kevin Tressler, the man entrusted with making all this work. Kevin, first of all, tell us Shuang Zone. What does that mean?
Okay, Shuang actually is, in Chinese, it's got a double meaning. It means both physical and emotional uplift.
Okay.
And that's really, from a strategic perspective, one of the things we wanted to do in China was to teach people how to drink Coke and to teach people how to love Coke. And really, Shuang seemed to be the best way to express it.
What has the preparation been like? I mean, how many people working here, and when did this place come up?
Okay, so do you want me to answer it for Beijing, for China, or just for this place?
Let's start with this place, move to Beijing and then to China.
Okay, our plans for the Beijing Olympics overall started about 3 years ago. Specifically, this place was finalized about 6 months ago. There was a core team of about 25 people who started, and with our agency. At this point in time, I'd like to say between the agency and us, there would be about 150 people who are overall executing this particular place. Okay, city of Beijing. Just to give you a perspective, in the 17 days, we're going to be delivering 26 million servings of Coca-Cola products. And that takes a hell of a lot of people to actually physically do that. So at this point in time, there's 1,000 people dedicated to supply chain and logistics of just delivering product to each of the Olympic venues. This is outside the market. This is just the Olympic venues. The athlete village has 60 dedicated people from the Coca-Cola company working 24 hours a day, just hydrating the athletes. So that's the city of Beijing. Now this country of China. Wow. It's a difficult one to answer, Anuradha, because we've got a bottling system here as well who are primarily responsible for execution. I would venture it would be close to 3,500 people, okay, who've been involved in the overall execution of these games. And what's important to know is that one of the reasons why so many people around the country have been involved is because we also sponsor the torch relay.
Right.
And the
right.
torch relay actually gave us an opportunity to interact with people across 31 provinces of this huge nation.
Coca-Cola was spreading its version of delicious happiness far and wide. This Shuang Zone in Beijing's trendy Place Mall saw people unconnected with the games making a beeline for entry passes. In addition to the standard photograph with the Olympic torch, there was a pop art take on China's iconic terracotta warriors and a chance to customize your own label.
We had an interview with Neville as well on CNBC, and he very categorically said that this sponsorship of the Olympic Games for Coca-Cola was about focusing or targeting the Chinese market. In terms of market share, what are you looking at post the event?
China is clearly one of our biggest emerging markets in the world. So there's been a lot of focus on China, and the fact that the Olympics is here gives us a huge leverage opportunity. But in addition to that, what I'd like to tell you is that this is in our 8-year history with the IOC. This is our biggest ever global activation, the Olympics. We've got 60 countries around the world using the Beijing Olympics to build their business. And we've got 151 countries at this point who've actually got the Mandarin logo, the Chinese Coca-Cola logo on their packaging. When I say our activation, it doesn't necessarily mean brand marketing. We have the program around Beijing also involves our people, involves our partners,
trade partners,
trade partners, customer partners like McDonald's, Walmart, 7-Eleven, that kind of thing, our employees. So India sent employees to the Beijing Games, which is part of a global program. India is on the internet, as I told you. India has done the Chinese logo. And India also had a bottler incentive program, so there was an internal contest. So India is part of that.
Yeah. So this sponsorship is really about building the brand Coca-Cola in markets where you feel you need to do this, and not about a sales uptick immedately.
Well, I mean, it works at various levels. It certainly, I mean, it works from a perspective of what we call building brand health. Which is our preference indicators. It also works for short-term volume and market share. The distinction is between a host country and a non-host country. For countries outside China, at this point in time, the relevance is really 3 to 6 months leading up to the games.
Right.
Versus in China, we've had like a 2-year activation. So everything in China over the last 1.5 years can be attributed to the Olympics investment. But outside China, clearly, we will know results by November, December of this year once we get the syndicated research. We'll know how much market share has improved. We'll know exactly how much preference has improved. And it's kind of a simple assumption that over the last 3 months of activation in that particular country, if market share goes up for Coca-Cola, it was because of the Olympics.
And if you thought those ideas were big, try this one out for size. As night fell, this 15-meter high Coke bottle showed for what it was, an LED screen, or shall we say screens, feeding into Asia's largest LED sky screen. Dancers, DJs and celebrity hosts pumped up the volume, and just when you thought it couldn't get more exciting, it did. Basketball stars the 7'8" center of the Chinese team Yao Ming and American forward LeBron James to continue and embody the East meets West theme.
This whole idea of East meets West, one of the things we decided to do was really have consumer relevant programs. So I'm going to pull this bottle out first. This was created by a Chinese graphic artist. He's from the Central Academy of Fine Arts right here, and his name is there. And then there was music created by this lady called Chess, who's actually going to perform tonight. And this theme is individual perseverance. So it's pretty cool because it's the idea of a maze. You know, how you get to the top. And the even more interesting thing about it is that this, if you read it closely, is actually Coca-Cola in Mandarin, if you understand Mandarin. So it's a pretty cool...
And these are what? Special edition bottles that are being given out here?
We've activated this in 8 countries around the world. So 8 is a big number. This program is called We8, W-E8, West East 8. and we've activated it in 8 cities around the world in the night channel, and we're doing a big activation here tonight
At the Shuang Zone.
at the Shuang Zone.
You're bringing in your entertainment
Absolutely.
people into the
Absolutely.
sport investment, and so it is a
Absolutely.
confluence then of sports and entertainment.
Well, absolutely, because it's you cannot you cannot just stay isolated with sport. We are not about sport. We are about consumer passions
Right.
and how consumers feel. So it's important that you fuse what we call fuse passions.
Right.
The V8 collection of bottles also gave Coca-Cola a chance to sample its vending machines of the future. If one played ads, allowed you to send ringtones to mobile phones in addition to serving up the drink, the other one literally served up Coke on ice at the twist of a cap.
Coca-Cola, which is the longest sponsor of the Olympic Games, says that it is invested in the Games till 2020 as of now. Let's take a commercial break here. When we come back, we're going to find out what all the other brands are up to. You're watching the Olympian effort here on CNBC TV 18. Now, between 2001 and 2004, the Olympics generated some $4 billion in revenues. Almost half of that came from the sale of broadcast rights and about 30% or so from corporate sponsors. Let's take a look at how sponsors and brands are reacting to Beijing 2008.
China first entered the Olympic arena in 1932. The same year that Omega became the official Olympic timekeeper, Omega has been timekeeping the Olympics ever since, and in 1988, the Swiss giant also joined the ranks of the top sponsor program. But with a twist.
We have a contract with the IOC, an agreement with them which is very, very clear. We have on one hand, we sell them a service, which is timekeeping data handling, which is something that they purchase from Omega and our group. And in addition to that, we have a royalty agreement with them, so we can use the rings, make Omega limited edition watches for the Olympics.
From simple beginnings in 1932 to the high-tech digital equipment of today, it's been a long Olympic journey for Omega. For Beijing 2008, Omega supplied timekeeping equipment for all the events, in addition to photo finish equipment for athletics, touchpads for swimming, and even a new GPS tracking system for the sailing events. This unique relationship also means that Omega is the only sponsor with an on-ground and on-air presence during the events. The company's brand ambassadors, including ace swimmer Michael Phelps and pole vaulter Yelena Isinbayeva, 2 broke records and 1 gold at Beijing 2008, ensuring that the party never stopped at the Omega Pavilion. Alongside Omega at the Olympic Green were other sponsors, both global and local. Samsung, the official wireless communication partner, ran a series of entertainment events and athlete interactions, including this one with China's controversial gold medal-winning child gymnasts. Adidas aims to open 5,000 stores in China by the end of the year. At the Olympics, the company outfitted over 100,000 volunteers and officials, in addition to some national teams and individual athletes. At its pavilion, Adidas took visitors down Olympic memory lane, the simple black shoes that Jesse Owens used when he upset Hitler's best-laid plans on his way to 4 gold medals at the 1936 Berlin Games, Nadia Comaneci's perfect 10 at the Montreal Games in 1976, and the full-body swimsuit used by Australian swimming icon Ian Thorpe at the Sydney Olympic Games.
The curtains may have come down on Beijing 2008, but the Olympian effort of athletes and brands continues. In fact, it never stops. The next big event is in Vancouver 2010, the Winter Olympics, and then the really big one, the Summer Olympics in London in 2012. And next week on the Olympian effort, we're going to tell you if China deserves a gold for playing host and the impact these games have on a country's economy. So do tune in next week, same time.